classwork review is I can represent and interpret linear relationships with tables, graphs, and equations. All right, let's get into it. All right, let's take a look at the first problem. Again, this was pretty straightforward. We talked about several methods for looking at the rate of change or the slope, and Keon is correct. That is a more than okay way of doing it. As we move forward, we'll see that I'm gonna skip number two because we'll come back to that. But these are kind of things that I might throw on the quiz. What is the rate of change? Well, it's a slope. What is the y-intercept? Y-intercept is the initial value. The initial value. That whole, get this here. That's the initial value. Okay. Solutions that make a sentence true. That is the definition of a solution that makes a sentence true. Uh-huh. And what is the x-intercept? The x and y intercept are very important. We'll talk about it often. That x has to be 0. So when x is 0, what is the value of y? Sometimes I kind of will do something like this, and we'll ask, okay, so when x is 0, what's y? Those are the kind of things that, and obviously, the x-intercept is just the opposite. Again, when we're thinking about my x-intercept, guys, typically I'm like, where are the points as they cross this x-axis? Okay. All right. So those are some vocabulary terms that we need to remember. Let's actually start some questions. Let's get the first question started here. Okay. All right. And as you read it to yourself, I'll read it aloud using opening exercise. Choose write equation of the line for the graph. So we actually kind of started this. I skipped over it because I knew I'd come back to it. But I have here a line. It passes my y-intercept. I have 0, comma 1, and then I set another point here at 3, comma -4. Where do I go with that in terms of generating an equation? Well, let me submit that I could think of it this way. Okay, here's how I could think of it. Well, I know that my slope. Let's start with the slope. Is the spaces up divided by the spaces across. Here I got 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to cross 3. Now, I commonly refer to this as the triangle method. Say that a couple times, guys. Triangle method. And it's because I'm going to create a triangle. So what I'm looking at here is a slope of 5 over 3. 5 over 3. Now, I want to calculate my y-intercept. Remember, we just talked about the value of y when x is 0. So I see that here x is 0. I'll make it a little bigger. X is 0. So when x is 0, y is 1. That 1 comes down. So my equation can be written. The equation is y equals 5 over 3x plus 1. Okay? Let's go to our next question here. Next question, we'll scroll down here. All right. Scroll down. I want this right here. Next question. Okay, the table below represents a linear function. What is this missing value? That's what is being asked. What's this missing value? Okay, so boom. And if you look at it, you'll notice that this looks familiar. This is one of those questions we just talked about. When when x is 0, what's the value of y? You guys remember what that's called? I hope you do, because it's the y-intercept. All right? So let's talk about how we could think about this. All right? What I propose is this. Consider the change of my x value and the change of my y value and just divide the doggone things, right? So if I go from 1 to 3, that's a change of 2. 7 to 17, that's a change of 10. 10 divided by 2, whoop, rate of change is 5. Easy peasy, okay? Easy peasy. So if the rate of change is 5, how am I getting 2? But think about it, guys. Think about it. Every time I go up by 1 or down by 1, I got to go up or down by 5. So here's a thought. Here's the thought. I have this negative 1, and I'm adding 1 to it. Okay? Positive 1. Bring that over here. I don't want that. That's not positive 1, no? Let's make sure this is positive. Okay. Positive. Okay. So this is positive 1. So positive 1, negative 1 plus positive 1 gives me 0. Okay? All right. But likewise here, let me clone this. When I'm adding 1 to the x's, I'm adding 5 to the y's. So if I add 5 to this, boom. What's negative 3 plus 5? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's positive 2. So that would be my solution to that particular question. So the missing value is missing value is 2, and the equation of the line or the function rule is y equals 5x plus 1. All right, we're going to pause the video. When we come back, we're going to get into the rest of the questions in this homework set. Clearly, you know by now that in order to touch it, feel it, learn it, teach it, and subsequently talking about it, what we have to do is we have to kind of internalize this information. 30 minutes, study a day, keeps bad grades away. All right, we'll come back for part 2 shortly.